Well, today we're going to talk about the Merci Train, and I'm going to take you back a little bit further than in the beginning, 75 years earlier than the Marseille Train of 1947. The French boxcars were built starting in 1872 to 1885 to be used for freight. The wooden boxcar is 29 feet long by 9 feet wide, which is about the third of the size of an American boxcar of similar construction. The boxcars were pressed into military service by the French Army in both the World Wars. British and American troops were transported to the Western Front in the boxcars, marked with 40 and 8 to denote their capacity of 40 men and 8 horses. The boxcars could also carry about 20 tons of supplies. In the March of 1920, the Society of 40 Men and 8 Horses was founded by Joseph William Breen, a World War I veteran and legionnaire in the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania area. Inspired by the World War I French boxcars that were used to transport American soldiers to the front during World War I. Along with 15 other members of the American Legion, they organized it as an honor society. In 1960, they became an independent and separately incorporated veterans organization from the American Legion. And this picture here gives you, these are British soldiers, and I chose this one because they look so happy. And you can see there up in the corner, it has the Homme Chevaux, which means the 40 men and 8 horses. Between 1940, this picture here, 1940 to 1944, occupying German forces used the 40 and 8s to transport troops, horses, freight, POWs, and civilian prisoners to concentration camps. Sometimes as many as 90 men were forced into a boxcar. Now, given, why it says there only holds 40, so they basically added 50 more men to a boxcar. There are no seats, there are no beds. It's just a freight car, empty. Sometimes as many as 90 men, like I said, and then some 168 Allied POWs were transported from Paris to the Buchenwald camp, August 1944. Civilians, however, were also forced into the boxcars as well, in larger numbers. Trains of 40 and 8s were frequent targets of opportunity for Allied fighter bombers, with carloads of prisoners occasionally being victimized, since they had no way of telling what were in each of the boxcars, and they moved rather slowly. And then there was a young soldier who had written to his folks about the fact that it went so slow. They were able to go from one car to another, just hopping off and getting on to the next one. So this became, like I said, they were a target, and it was very easy for them. As France was liberated, 40 and 8s were used to transport Allied soldiers and materials to the shifting front to the war's end of 1945. So here we have Drew Pearson, noted newspaper columnist and radio commentator, had visited France and Italy. He then spoke of the deplorable post-war conditions he saw while there. In October 1947, he made a plea for donations of food during his daily radio broadcast, as well as in his Washington merry-go-round column. Now, he was not a big fan of a lot of political, whether it's the president, the generals, and just Washington in general. So if you have a little more information on the Washington merry-go-round, you may look up Drew Pearson. This was to be organized outside of the government agenda of support, because at that time in 1947, there would be the Marshall Plan, named after George C. Marshall, the U.S. Secretary of State, was proposed. And this program was to provide economic assistance to Western Europe after World War II. This would be a symbol of willingness of Americans to help Europe, to pull together as a nation. And you can see here the friendship train on the left side is probably where the Drew Pearson, his wife, and others rode. And you can see from the other one, each train had, this particular one was from California, and you can see their donation was raisins. So each train may have had these symbols on the side of their cars to show what was inside of them. The idea was for the train to run west to east, starting in Los Angeles, California, and ending in New York City. November 7th, 1947, 11 boxcars of what became known as the Friendship Train left Los Angeles, California, with a spectacular send-off by Hollywood producers and 9 celebrities. This instantly became a joint endeavor of the people throughout the United States. Other states added boxcars at designated train stations along the way. And I do have a list, but you can see where it went across there with there were different points. States donated food, and a lot of this food was just from ordinary citizens, canned goods from their very own kitchen pantries. School children had food drives. There was clothing, fuel, medical supplies, grain from the farmers' fields. Corporations, also donated food, packing boxes, transportation, trucks, trains, ships, and labor. It was said people even waited for hours in line to donate money. Everything was donated, and not one dime of government aid was given. By the time it reached New York, there were a total of 700 boxcars filled that would reach 14 European countries. The estimated value of cargo was over $40 million, and that was in 1947 dollars. The hope was to collect 80 train car loads of supply. Missouri contributed food items. Kansas, it was wheat. Now, at that time, there were some that they were considered isolationist states. Didn't feel like they were that they should support and send things to other countries. They needed to support themselves. So eventually, they did get on board and did send things to the train. And I believe for Missouri, it was probably the stop was in Iowa. Each parcel that was distributed in Europe was accompanied by a personal message of the American donors. And the message said this: in this vast melting pot that is America, there are many different races and many religious faiths. In spirit of the democratic and Christian goodwill, we Americans have worked to bring these products from our fields to your homes. We hope they will help you until the day when you have harvest will be abundant and beautiful again. The trains were divided into different sections pulled by different locomotives so they could get them all into New York City. The main train reached New York with its locomotive towing 240 wagons and being welcomed by a crowd of 25,000. They were then loaded onto what had been the United States Line's American Leader, which was rechristened as the Friend Ship prior to carrying its shipload to France. The people of Europe were overwhelmed by this great gift from America. August of 1948, a French railroad worker and World War II veteran, André Picard, proposed that France should fill a boxcar with French goods like perfumes and wines and lace, etc., to be sent to the America as a thank you for the relief efforts that saved many from starvation. The idea caught on overwhelmingly, and they realized more cars may be needed. Now, with a committee formed, the word was spread. The French people were asked to donate only something of value or deep personal meaning, a sacrifice to give because the gift was to convey the depths of their gratitude to the American people. So there were antiques or valuable works of art, books, dolls, and one short little blip, there was a little girl that was in an orphanage. She wanted to give her doll, but her little doll did not have hair, so they were able to take some of her own hair to make a wig for her little doll. Other toys items, and there was also a stuffed dog named Lulu. And Lulu was sent by Helen Paradis. She was 10 years old, and she wanted to send it along with her picture so that whoever got Lulu would be able to share the picture of the little girl who gave her away and was loved before that. She had been given to her when she was born because her father was a POW. There were soldiers. Little boys sent some soldiers. Of course, soldiers' toys at that time were made of lead. They ended up basically in a museum. There were stained glass windows, furniture, uniform, china pieces, horns. There was even supposedly the Legion of Honor medal that belonged to Napoleon. The city of Lyon donated 49 handmade wedding gowns, one for each boxcar. Now, there was a story in the South, and what I think was maybe North Carolina or South Carolina, where they had whoever could fit the dress could have the dress, but they also had to be engaged and also had a wedding date already planned in order to win the dress. So kind of a Cinderella, who could fit the dress? The president of France donated 49 Sèvres porcelain vases, one for each boxcar. Each gift gave with a tag from the donor if they wanted to be known. To carry the items donated, what a more fitting vessel than the 40 and 8s. They thought the boxcars would be more meaningful since so many American veterans rode in the boxcars during both wars. Believed the educational items donated went to schools, religious artifacts donated were given to the churches, and many others donated to museums. Over 52,000 gifts were gathered, loaded into the 49 boxcars. On January 14, 1949, the boxcars, 250 tons, were loaded onto the French freighter, the Magellan, with over 25,000 onlookers in attendance. On the side of the freighter was painted, Merci America. It arrived in America on February 2nd, 1949. The next day, a huge ticket tape parade was held in New York City. A representative from France attended to thank the people of New York and presented the gifts. Similar ceremonies were held throughout each of the states, and with representatives from France present to thank the people. Thanks again to the American railroads for delivering the boxcars to each state at no cost. They were loaded onto flatbed train cars because their wheels and things were not made for the American train tracks. They were too small. So they had to load them onto flatbed train cars. There were 48 boxcars going to each state, with the District of Columbia and Hawaii sharing one. It was in Washington first, then shipped to Hawaii. Alaska was not a recipient of the Merci Train, due firstly that at the time of the Friendship Train, Alaska was not a state. Their contributions were likely shipped separately due to its geographical distance and territorial status at that time. The boxcars were donated by the committee from France. Painted on each side of the boxcar was a tricolor diagonal stripe in blue, white, and red, the colors of both flags. One side said Gratitude Train in English, and the other side said De la Reconnaissance Française. Robert Louis, a well-known heraldic artist, designed 40 shields, symbols of France. 20 shields were placed on both sides, with them running along the top and bottom of the diagonal straight. The 40 shields represented the 40 provinces which existed during the Revolutionary War, with France as an ally. Now you can go online and you'll find where these are at, and if you hit on each of these shields, it will give you the pronunciation of the province, as well as its capital, what the design of their shield represents. On each side, there is a rectangular side depicting the center of the Great Seal of America. The eagle began being a golden eagle instead of the bald eagle, and this was a representative of the 13 colonies. The other rectangular shield represents the symbol of the Merci Train. It depicts the frontal view of a steam engine with flowers on the pilot, which are symbols of Flanders Field, where many American doughboys from World War I are buried. This was adopted as the official symbol by the committee and was used even on the gift tags that came with each item sent to America. Now, the doughboy was the nickname used until the 1940s, where it was changed to GI. The Missouri boxcar arrived in Kansas City on February 12. After a 2-day routing through Missouri, it arrived in Jefferson City on February 14th. Governor Forrest Smith received the boxcar and turned it over to the 40 and 8. Our boxcar was originally to be permanently exhibited at the Capitol Museum in Jefferson City. However, the building was a foot too short for the boxcar. If you can imagine that, since it was only 29 feet. This landed it in prison, literally, inside the walls of the Jefferson County State Penitentiary. Here it sat for a year until the Missouri Pacific Railroad and the 48 Society sponsored its move to the fairgrounds in Sedalia, Missouri. It was moved to the site adjacent to the grandstand at the fairgrounds in the 1950s. Later moved to its present site. It has been, and the Voyager 333 has been responsible for the maintenance and upkeep, and in 2017-2018, a complete restoration was completed. Now, the gifts that were sent to Missouri, some of them are in the display at the lobby of the courthouse in Sedalia. Of last year, August 24th, it was the 75th anniversary of the Merci Train, and there were celebrations at the fairground. Where are the boxcars today? You will find them located in Veterans Memorial Museum, parks, railroad parks, locomotive museums, American Legions, state capitals, city halls, penitentiaries, and state fairgrounds. Anyone from Kansas, yours is located at the Kansas Merci Boxcar and Veteran Memorial Park in Hays, Kansas. Most states do have items that were donated on display. Arizona has pretty complete set on display. Of the 49 boxcars, there are only 43 left in existence. Connecticut, Illinois, which they thought could be scrapped or was lost to a fire, as well as New Jersey. Massachusetts and Nebraska boxcars were scrapped. Colorado has no idea where theirs is today, but someone has a general idea that it could be on the property of some legion being used for storage. Now, France was not only country to receive items from the Friendship Train and sent back thank you gifts. Shortly after the first shipload of donated food arrived in Italy, which was on Christmas Day, 1947, the Italian film company made a documentary film showing the distribution of that food to their destitute citizens. The movie was sent to America with a request that copies be made and that be shown in theaters across America. A couple of years later, the Italian government sent a gift of 4 huge bronze statues: the Valor, the Sacrifice, Music and Harvest, Aspiration and Literature. 2 sit at the Theodore Roosevelt Memorial Bridge, and the other 2 sit at the Arlington Memorial Bridge in Washington, D.C. The people of the Netherlands expressed their gratitude to the American people by sending a gift of large carillon, which was cast from a bronze alloy and featured 50 bells, each carrying an emblem and verse representing a group within the Dutch society. The carillon is located near the National U.S. Marine Memorial in Arlington, where it is played every few minutes during visitors' hours. There are books on the Friendship Train, as well as a book on the Merci Train wedding dress. There's a boxcar diplomacy. Also, Popular Culture, The Friendship Train by Gladys Knight and the Pips, released in 1969, which references the historical Friendship Train written by Norman Whitfield. These boxcars were considered antique at the time of the Merci Train. Today, some are as old as 155 years old.